What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and thank you guys so much for joining us for our weekly live shows where we break down the latest around your Minnesota Vikings. We got a lot to talk about today. Free agency, the draft. We got some hot takes, but as we let the audience build up here, if you guys love the Minnesota Vikings, just give me a skull down below in the comment section. I already got Bobby Blogs in there. Shout out to you, the Purple Filth, Richard D, Skull Productions, INT Productions, Bobby Blog, Skull Productions, getting their skulls in there. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. But we got a lot to talk about on today's show. It's going to be a hectic offseason for the Minnesota Vikings. Got a lot of big decisions, to make in terms of your own free agents and where do you want to allocate your funds in free agency, offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. You can go a number of different directions there. But, I think the first biggest move and where we'll find out where the Vikings are going to go is with Byron Murphy. If they decide to bring Byron Murphy back on almost $20 million per year, I think that will, one, indicate that there's no doubt Sam Darnold will not be back as a quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, but also could that leave a guy like Camryn Bynum not being brought back to Minnesota? I think Byron Murphy is kind of the first big domino to fall for Minnesota. But shout out to Michael Moore in the building, Caleb Yaks, Dwayne Johnson, your favorite blonde, HV3, yeah, the Rock's in the building. Peter, what's going on? Skull, PDB in Y-Town or Youngstown, Ohio. Shout out to you. Dirk Kendrick saying Skull as well. Shout out to you guys for tuning in on today's show. But I do want to ask you guys something about the Vikings' upcoming NFL draft because the Senior Bowl going on right now. Let me know. Name a player that the Vikings need to draft. If you have your eyes set on one draft prospect, let me know who it is down below in the live chat. For me, I got two guys. Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame cornerback. Big fan of his. I think it'd be a great scheme fit with Brian Flores. And also Kenneth Gant, defensive tackle from Michigan. I think he is an absolute stud. Him and Mason Graham were unbelievable for Michigan this past season. So those are probably my two guys, Benjamin Morrison and Kenneth Gant. As we got Cam Scatabo coming in from Jack Honoré. Scatabo coming in from the live chat as INT Production saying Ashton Genty or Cam. Yeah, I think the Vikings will target running back. And actually in our hot take segment, I have the Vikings drafting two running backs this upcoming NFL draft. So hopefully Scatabo is one of them. I would be a big fan of that. Give me a physical back, great at the goal line. That's what Cam, excels at. Munkus saying Morrison. Skull Production saying Ashton Genty with trading away Hawkinson. That's an interesting angle there. Yeah, I don't even know how much you would be able to get for Hawk. I'm assuming at least a third-round pick, but he does have a big contract. Has had a lengthy injury history in the NFL. But yeah, you guys let me know. Name a player the Vikings need to draft. Munkus going with Morrison. Bobby Blogs going with Morrison. Yeah, it seems like everybody's hopping on the Benjamin Morrison train here. But also in our first segment, we do have a safety out of Georgia that Daniel Jeremiah had the Vikings drafting at pick number 24, Malaki Starks. So we'll dive into him as well. And they also got some free agents we're going to talk about on today's show. But Dale Drake saying offensive line is the priority. Now, I'll talk about this more on today's show. I totally agree. Offensive line is the top priority. But if you look at the free agent market here, you got pretty much two big names on the offensive line side of things. You got Drew Dahlman, you got Trey Smith. But also, farther down that list, you have some veterans, like a guy like Zeitler from the Detroit Lions, where you could just kind of plug and play him for 1 year, $6 million. Would you rather, take that money that you would spend on Trey Smith, go get a defensive lineman like the one from the Cowboys, Osa, which we'll talk about on today's show? Or are you just saying, F it, the Vikings need to go all in on offensive line, take all your funds, take all the money you have in free agency, and really shore it up for J.J. McCarthy? That's a conversation I'm sure Kwesi's having here, but Akv giving me a thumbs up. Shout out to you. Munkus saying Scatabo if he is available at third round. Third round pick would be fine with Scatabo. I think I would be all right drafting him in the third. We are not taking Scatabo at the end of the first round. One thing about Scatabo that I'm a little concerned about is maybe he's getting a little overvalued from his Texas performance. That's all I'm going to say about it. No, he's a stud. Listen, I would be thrilled if the Vikings were able to draft him. A little bit. No. That's what I'm worried about. Yeah. But Skull TV saying, can't believe he slept on. The Wizinator saying, Skull, shout out to you. Jonah saying, Gray Sable. Don't know what that is. KOC got to stop trying to play out. INT Production saying, Will Johnson, if he falls, Will Johnson will be a top 10 pick. He will for sure be going to the top 10. I don't think he has a chance to drop to 24 whatsoever. But if the Vikings, also, they have no chance of trading up in this year's draft, too. So if there's a guy you guys want at like pick 15 or pick 10, Vikings probably won't be able to get him. Just with the limited draft capital they have, I don't think they're going to trade up for him. But we'll dive into more around the Vikes here in a second. But quickly, I want to tell you guys about our sponsors on today's live show, and the first one being Prize Picks. Now, if you guys download the Prize Picks app today and plug in promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use that promo code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, what is Prize Picks? It's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award and winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. So check them out. Download the app today. Plug in promo code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. But shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring our live show here at Vikings Now. Prize Picks. Run your game. Now, I also want to give another major shout-out to another sponsor we have here, and that is Game Time. Now, if you guys download the Game Time app today and plug in the promo code ChatSports, you guys will get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but plug in that promo code ChatSports, and you guys will get $20 off your first purchase. Now, Game Time, they also have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app today, create an account, plug in promo code ChatSports, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, excited to see what you guys have to say about this. Give me a Vikings hot take heading into the offseason, because we're going to have a segment on today's show where I'm going to give you guys 5 hot takes around the Minnesota Vikings. You guys can get as creative as you want down below in the comments section, but we'll see where you guys go with this one. Purple Filth going first here, saying snatch up Najee Harris. If the Vikings are going to attack running back in free agency, I would rather have them just bring back Aaron Jones on a 2-year, $14 million deal. You can get out of it after the first year. PFF projects him only get about $8 million guaranteed. Like, ideally, I would want you to bring back Aaron Jones, then draft a guy in the 3rd or the 5th round and have those 2 running backs kind of be your focal point offensively. As the Wizinator saying, Rico Dowdle. I'm all right on Rico. Bobby Boggs saying we have Akers as our RB1. Listen, I love Akers, but, I think – especially maybe it's just me watching the Eagles and seeing the impact that a guy like Saquon Barkley had, or even the Bills with James Cook, Derrick Henry, obviously going to the Ravens. I think the Vikings need to get an elite back in that room. And, in this year's draft, there's a countless amount of names that you guys could go with. So ideally for me, bring back Aaron Jones, and then you go draft a running back, in the 3rd or the 5th round here. INT saying, who you have in the Super Bowl? I got to go with the Kansas City Chiefs on here. Even if I thought the Philadelphia Eagles were going to win this game, I will not pick the Eagles. I will be going hard for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But you guys also let me know who you got in the Super Bowl. As Dark saying Xavier Watts, INT. Oh, he's saying boo. INT, I'm guessing you're going with the Eagles then in the Super Bowl. But 4KT saying go get Scatterboo or Devin Neal from Kansas. I'm a big Devin Neal fan as well. Obviously, Cam Scatterboo. I mean, we are also big fans of him in the studio. Trade for Trey Hendrickson? Probably good on that. You'd have to give up a lot of draft capital. And plus, the Vikings already have 3 edge rushers who you feel comfortable with rolling out. Dallas Turner, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard. You're probably cool with those guys over yeah. Bobby Boggs saying refs wins 31-27. Bradley saying we signed Cooper Kupp. I mean, if Kupp gets cut, he would be an interesting option at wide receiver 3. That'd be an ideal wide receiver 3 for the Minnesota Vikings. But, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I would also be more than okay with just bringing back Jalen Naylor and he runs that wide receiver 3 role. Z Cool, what's going on, man? Saying, I'm just happy Flores is staying. And then Eli M saying, what's happening with free agency? Yeah, we can just ask you guys this about Trey Smith. So I don't want to say I'm against the Vikings going all in on Trey Smith because he's a tremendous player, one of the best guards in the National Football League. I would be thrilled that the Vikings were able to get him. But I would also be a little concerned that him getting out of that Chiefs organization, getting away from that culture, like, would he be able to live up to a 4-year, $84 million contract? I think he still would be able to. But then again, like Brandon Scherf, Zeitler, you got other guys you can plug and play in at that offensive guard spot, and maybe you go attack like a defensive tackle in free agency, which also we'll talk about. That's going to be a big part of my hot take segment, where I do think the Vikings, even though fans are really pounding the table, hey, go draft or go sign an offensive lineman, maybe they could head the direction of the defensive line, then go more plug and play at the offensive line. But this has also been an issue for the Vikings, the interior offensive line, for a number of years. I also would be more than okay, hey, lock it up, get a Trey Smith, get a Drew Dahlman, do whatever you got to do. But if it is Drew Dahlman, you're most likely going to cut Garrett Bradbury, save about $4 million there as well. INT, though, saying he's young and him developing under both JJ, I feel like that's a win. Yeah, 100%. He's only 26 years old. Ice Castle saying tag and trade Darnold to the Seahawks for Charbonara or Kenneth Walker. I would love that. That's actually a great idea. Because I don't think you'll be able to get a high draft pick for Darnold in a tag and trade. But if you could get a player like a Kenneth Walker or a Charbonnet, I think that would be a great call. Shout out to you, Ice. I appreciate you commenting that. Charbonara. Oh, I said Charbonara. Oh, that's a joke here at Chat Sports. Called Charbonnet. Charbonara. No, it's Charbonnet. That's on me. That's on me. Eli saying, do you think Darnold will stay? I do not. I think Darnold's going to hit free agency, get $40+ million from either the Steelers, Raiders, Giants, or even maybe a team like the Seattle Seahawks could toss him a bag as well. Junk saying, yeah, I like Charbonnet. No, Charbonnet's a great running back, very physical. Also a good goal line back, which the Vikings, if you're looking at a running back, you got to get somebody who is physical, better at the goal line, since they struggled immensely running the ball at the goal line so far this season. But Dwayne saying Bradbury has to go. His best block is the lookout block. Yeah, when he turns around, he gets his ass kicked, and he's like, hey, that guy's running at you. Seeing that too many times for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, but also I wouldn't hate bringing back Bradbury for just one more season. Obviously, ideally, you go get an upgrade there like a Drew Dahlman. But, if it's not Drew Dahlman or like a guy like Ryan Kelly, there are not a lot of good center options out there. But Skull TV saying if Harrison Smith retired, all but guarantees Vikings trade back. Malachi Moore could be the replacement. Don't hate that idea about Malachi Moore. But also, what about a little Theo Jackson? I feel like us Vikings fans are sleeping on him a little bit. I know he does have like a cult-esque following in a certain area of Vikings fans, but I honestly think Theo has a good chance to start next season, and I would be thrilled about that. Tremendous player. Very versatile safety, and obviously with Brian Flores, you've got to be versatile to play that safety spot. But let me get this out to you guys. So we're going to get into a mailbag here in about 30 minutes or so. So if you guys got a question for me, get in the live chat, use hashtag Vikings, or if you guys want to support the show, sending a super chat is a great way to do so. So get those questions in the live chat right now. We'll answer questions for about 12 minutes here. So if you guys got a hot take, question around the Vikings, free agency, draft, whatever it may be, let me know your thoughts down below in the live chat right now, or you guys can obviously just send in a super chat. We would really appreciate it as well. INT saying, what about a Justin Reed? Justin Reed's probably going to run you about $10 million, and if you're giving $10 million to Justin Reed, then I would just be okay, even though I'm in the camp that they shouldn't bring Cam Bynum back, but then you should just go pay Cam Bynum the $11, $12 million that he's probably going to get. But yeah, Skull TV, love that question on Milton Williams. Mike Nintendo, appreciate you. Hunter getting a question in there. Shout out to you. Bobby Blog saying, who would be our most likely trade target? In terms of trading for somebody, I just don't think the Vikings are going to be in the trade market this offseason. Maybe when the trade deadline approaches next season, maybe they get a little more active in there, but I just can't see them taking their limited draft capital to trade for a guy. Mike Nintendo, appreciate you getting another question in there. Eli M saying, do you think J.J. McCarthy will start? Yeah, if all goes well, J.J. McCarthy will be under center week 1 for the Minnesota Vikings. INT, I love that question about trading T.J. Hawkinson. If you want to make sure to get that in the mailbag, the INT one, thoughts on trading Hawk for picks. Don't hate that idea whatsoever. And listen, I love Hawk as a player, but he's an expensive tight end, and I think tight ends coming out nowadays are just hitting at a way higher rate than they were 10 years ago, for example. And I think that's just natural because a lot of these high school teams are playing a lot more 7-on-7 growing up, like receivers, skill positions. They're just getting developed at a way quicker rate. I mean, that's why now in the NFL, if you draft a receiver in the top 10, you expect him to be a true wide receiver 1 right away. I mean, just Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors this past season, but also Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Like, they came in the league and were impactful from day one. And, tight ends like a Sam Laporta, he was great right away. Brock Bowers was fantastic. I just think these tight ends are getting developed at a extremely high rate. So, trading T.J. Hawkinson, not a terrible, terrible thought to have. As Mike saying, I think I speak with Bears and Vikings fans when I say we should let the Packers channel have it when both teams beat them. Oh, no doubt. We will for sure do that, Mike. But coming up on today's show, I do want to go over just the latest news and rumors around the Minnesota Vikings. There's a lot out there. Daniel Jeremiah had his latest mock draft. The Vikings were actually linked to a free agent cornerback from the Buffalo Bills. And then apparently the Vikings are already talking with Cam Bynum in his camp on a possible extension. So if you guys are ready to go, we got 142 people in the building. Just hit that thumbs up icon. Once we get the 50 likes, we'll start today's show. We're at 35 right now, so just need 15 more of you guys to hit that thumbs up icon. I'd appreciate it. Helps us get the stream out to more and more Vikings fans as well. But Z, cool. What's going on, man? Saying, where is he? What position is loading the draft this year? Within that loaded class, can the Vikings drop a player in expectation of picking one up and upgrading? If so, who? That's a good question, Z. Cool. I need a little bit to think about that. You said what? Yeah, running. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, instead of paying Aaron Jones $8 million per year, you could just go draft a running back in the 3rd or the 5th round, probably get the same production, if not better production, than a guy like Aaron Jones. But then you also got to talk about like a guy like no, Z, cool. I love the question. Get as in-depth as you would like to. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Z. Philip saying address O-line and free agency and draft D-line. I would love that as well. But tomorrow I'm actually going to do a dream offseason again for the Minnesota Vikings. Just really dive into it. Like, who would I cut? Like a guy like C.J. Ham. You could save around, I think, $2.8 million if you cut C.J. Ham. I mean, he only played about 20% of offensive snaps this season, so I could see him being a cut candidate. Obviously, a guy like Garrett Bradbury, what's going to happen with Harrison Smith? You would save money if he ends up retiring. So, listen, there's a lot to talk about this Vikings offseason. It's not like any big moves the Vikings have to make, but there's a ton of just moves on the margins that will really help this football team, get going in the next season. But we're at 49 likes right now. We just need one more of you guys. Hit that thumbs up button, then we'll dive into the first segment on today's show. So if you guys could, hit that like button down below. Free, easy way to help support us here. And then also, if you guys do want to send in a super chat, get your question up on screen. You'll skip the line in the mailbag. We'll get up on there right away. But Z Cool is saying, Hawk, I feel like he was playing conservative after the injury. Next year, if he is still around, he will have more confidence in his health and his knee. I mean, that could definitely be playing to it. Coming off a torn ACL, the only argument I would make to that, Z Cool, is he took the full time needed. It's not like he rushed back, because remember, after the Vikings bye in week 6, he was pretty much ready to go against the Lions. Then he missed the next 2 weeks, Lions and Rams. Then he finally came back for the Colts on that Sunday night game. But yeah, I mean, Hawk, he was all right, as Z Cool saying, physically, yes, but mentally, 100%. I mean, if you tear your ACL, you're just not trusting that knee as much as you would before that injury. Jeremy saying, what are your thoughts on Rodgers coming to Minnesota? Probably say no on that. Probably say no on Rodgers coming to the Vikes, but it would be pretty cool. He would follow Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers is already flirting with the idea of retirement. It would not shock me if Rodgers retires in the next month, And then we'll get a report in July like, oh, snap, Rodgers is trying to make a comeback into the NFL. And let's just say like JJ, he has a setback in his recovery from the torn meniscus. Like, good Rodgers, foul Favre. I have no idea. But definitely not on Aaron Rodgers. But, hey, we just crossed over 61 likes. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're going to dive into this first segment, though. Daniel Jeremiah, the Vikings were linked to a free agent, and then is a Camryn Bynum extension coming. We'll break that all down on today's show. Osa Odighizuwa. That's Odighizuwa. What are the chances I pronounce that right during the segment? I'm going to go less than, I think about 15% here that I pronounce Osa's name. I think 15 is giving me the benefit of the doubt here. We'll see. We'll see. Skull TV saying you said it right. Yeah, we'll see when the segment rolls around. Shout out to Stay Connected in the chat. Appreciate you for tuning in, man. Dwayne saying, let's be honest about Sam Darnold. Does not throw over the middle over the middle. Hawk was open a lot. Well, Darnold does attack the middle of the field very well, especially in that Lions game. I just felt like Hawk just missed a lot of 50-50 balls that he should have got. Just call it like it is. But also tight ends in the whole postseason were struggling. I mean, Dalton Kincaid, Mark Andrews. So, yeah, Laser talking about Caleb Johnson. Appreciate you. But we got 163 people in the building. I say we dive into it. Latest news and rumors around the Minnesota Vikings. Let's get after it. Ready to go? What's going on, Vikings fans? Got some exciting news for you guys today. We're coming up. Daniel Jeremiah dropped his latest mock draft. Who does he have the Vikings selecting at pick number 24? Stay tuned for that. And then also, the Vikings were linked to a free agent corner, according to PFF. So we'll give you guys the news there. And also, Cam Bynum, is an extension coming for the free agent safety? We'll talk about that on today's show. But let me know your guys' thoughts on this. What is the biggest position of need for the Minnesota Vikings? So I narrowed it down to 3 here. Offensive line, defensive line, and cornerback. Give me an O for offensive line. Give me a D for defensive line. Or if you think it's cornerback, give me a CB down below in the comment section. Let me know your guys' thoughts. For me, I still think it's offensive line, so I'll be probably typing my O's there. But you guys let me know your thoughts. What is the biggest position of need for the Minnesota Vikings? All right, let's start it off. Daniel Jeremiah, in his latest mock draft, who do you have the Vikings selecting at pick number 24? Little teaser here. It's not an offensive lineman, and it's not a defensive lineman, but Daniel Jeremiah, one of the best NFL draft analysts out there, so we'll see what he has to say here in a second. But I do want to look back at the picks before the Vikings selected at pick number 24. So at pick number 19, he had Calais Campbell, linebacker, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then he also had Nick Imanwori, the safety out of South Carolina, going to the Denver Broncos. Matthew Golden, Texas wide receiver, heading to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Colston Loveland, I promise you, in about 85% of mock drafts you guys see this offseason, they will have Colston Loveland going to the Los Angeles Chargers at pick 22. You got the Jim Harbaugh connection there. Then also Shamar Stewart, edge, going to the Green Bay Packers. So where does that leave the Minnesota Vikings at pick number 24? Well, Daniel Jeremiah had the Vikes selecting Malaki Starks, safety out of Georgia. Everybody relax. I can already see the comments being lit up. I am not drafting another safety out of Georgia. I feel like we're scarred from the Lewis Cine situation. But Malaki, he is a very interesting prospect here. So let's dive into him a little bit and check out what Daniel Jeremiah had to say about the Georgia safety. He says, Starks didn't make as many plays as we're accustomed to seeing from him in 2024, but people at Georgia rave about his intangibles, leadership, and work ethic. He has the versatility to play over the top or cover the slot. And that last part intrigues me the most about Malaki Starks because, again, the buzzword with Brian Flores and what type of players he wants to bring in are versatile football players, and that's what Malaki Starks is. Now, you could have said the same thing about Lewis Cine back in the day, but there is no doubt that Malaki Starks, he's a versatile player. He's a very aggressive player. He can play in the box. He's great in just certain run-fit schemes. And, with where the Vikings are at their safety position, like if Harrison Smith retires and Cam Bynum walks, I could definitely see them targeting a safety in the first round. But there's raw numbers on the season: 77 tackles, 4 TFLs, 4 PBUs, and 1 interception. But the coverage stats for him were pretty solid as well. 4 PBUs, 1 interception on the year, only allowed 2 touchdowns in 14 games and just under 500 yards. He allowed 34 completions on 52 attempts heading his way, and in total it ended up being a QB rating of 97.7. And listen, I understand it does make a lot of sense. Harrison Smith most likely going to retire. Can Bynum? Can you pay him in free agency? But I would rather have the Vikings, instead of, I don't want to call it wasting your first round pick on a safety, just to give the spot and give the starting role to a guy like Theo Jackson. Do not sleep on Theo potentially being the starting safety this upcoming season for the Minnesota Vikings. He had an awesome game when he had to fill in for Harrison Smith, that Week 16 game against the Seattle Seahawks. He had like an 85 overall PFF grade. He had the game-sealing interception. And this guy, just like Malaki Starks, very versatile player. He was playing some box in that game. He was playing some deep half safety. He was all over the football field, and he already knows Flores' system. I think that is so key, because I think the Vikings, I'm not saying their Super Bowl window starts next season, but everybody expects the Vikings to at least win 10 games and have a very strong season. I would rather have them go, the veteran route in a guy like Theo Jackson, starting at safety. Then you take that first-round pick, and then you go, add a defensive lineman like a Kenneth Gann out of Michigan, or you go get an offensive lineman or whatever it may be, or go draft a cornerback like Benjamin Morrison. But I just don't necessarily think safety is the right call in the first round for the Minnesota Vikings. Well, I'll ask you guys this. Should the Vikings draft a safety in the first round? What you think about this one? Give me a D for draft or give me a P for pass down below in the comment section. I'll make this a pinned comment on today's show. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, and let me know your thoughts. If the Vikings should draft a safety in the first round this season, give me a D for draft or give me a P for pass. Now coming up next on the show, PFF links the Vikings to Rasual Douglas, Bills cornerback. I'll share you guys the quotes, share some stats on him, and also talk about how he would fit with Brian Flores and this defense. But, before we dive into it, I do want to give a massive, massive shout out to today's presenting sponsor here on the show, and that is Game Time. Now, if you guys download the Game Time app today and plug in that promo code CHATSPORTS, you guys will get $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time and download that, plug in that promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Terms apply. Again, create an account and just plug in promo code CHATSPORTS. But Game Time has a new feature for you guys called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Now, whether it's a Minnesota Timberwolves game, a Minnesota Wild game, or a concert, or whatever it may be that requires buying a ticket, Game Time is the best app to check out. And plus, we got a sweet deal for you guys. Plug in that promo code CHATSPORTS, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but plug in that promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. So download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's talk about it. PFF, they're predicting where every free agent will sign this offseason. And they had the Vikings picking up cornerback Rasual Douglas this year in free agency. And, this is obviously a big position of need for the Vikings, considering you only have Mekhi Blackmon as only healthy, ready-to-go corner for next season, with Byron Murphy hitting free agency, Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin. So I could definitely see the Vikes targeting cornerback. But let's just see what PFF had to say about Rasual Douglas joining the Minnesota Vikings. They said Douglas faced his share of challenges in Buffalo, earning a 58.9 coverage grade in 2024. However, his knack for creating turnovers remains undeniable, as he tallied 14 interceptions over the past 3 seasons. As the Vikings look to replace Stephon Gilmore, Douglas presents a seasoned option for the outside. His skill set aligns well with Brian Flores' aggressive, blitz-heavy scheme, making him a strong candidate to bolster Minnesota's secondary. And that's, very true about what Brian Flores likes from his cornerbacks. He likes that ball hawk. He likes that aggressive corner where, yes, you may give up a lot of yards over the top, but when plays are needed to be made, he can do that. Now, here are his stats in terms of coverage this season. He was targeted 53 times, and he allowed 39 completions for 452 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he had 5 PBUs and 0 interceptions this season, and he also allowed a quarterback rating of 124.1. But I do think Rasual Douglas you know, if the Vikings, because I think a big domino to fall right away at free agency will be Byron Murphy. And, you know, I would rather have the Vikings head the direction of Byron Murphy at that $17 million compared to what Rasual Douglas is supposed to get 2 years, $26.5 million. And Rasual is a good player. He would be a good scheme fit. I cannot deny that. Now, if the Vikings did not already have Byron Murphy in their organization, I could definitely see them heading another direction. But, you know, I will say, like, Byron Murphy, like, if it's the difference between Rasual Douglas at $13.5 million per year or Byron Murphy at $17.5, just take that extra $4 million and land a guy who has been here under Flores for the past 2 seasons. I honestly think that's a no-brainer. And also with Rasual Douglas, like, if they do bring back Byron Murphy, I don't think there's a chance they go out and sign another big-name cornerback. Like, if Murphy is brought back, I think they would still target one in round 1. Like, you go draft a Benjamin Morrison, and then at that third cornerback spot, that fourth cornerback spot, you still have Mekhi Blackmon coming back off that injury, and then you could just go call Stephon Gilmore in August, call Shaq Griffin in August, get another body in there before the season starts. So, listen, Rasual Douglas, good player. I would like him if this was a different situation, but I would still rather have the Vikings roll out with Byron Murphy. But let's talk about Cam Bynum here real quick, because we did get a new report that the Vikings could be bringing back Cam Bynum here in free agency, and this would be, you know, a very interesting move for a multitude of different reasons. You know, mainly with Cam Bynum, listen, I think he's a good player. There's no denying that, but I would rather, again, have the Vikings spend their money somewhere else. Like, I don't want them to spend money, you know, farther away from the football, because they are so bad in the trenches on both sides, in my opinion. Yes, you got good players like you know, on the outside of the trenches, but on the interior of the offensive line and the defensive line, there are still major holes to be filled there. And would you want to give Cam Bynum $11-12 million where you could go use that money and sign another big-name free agent? I don't know, but this is what Jeremy Fowler had to say on the Vikings extending Bynum, saying the Vikings and Bynum have had discussions about an extension. While nothing has materialized, both sides are open to it, and this could get done before mid-March. And this was actually in the latest article by ESPN, and it was Jeremy Fowler writing this. But, you know, a little bit of an unpopular opinion here with Cam Bynum. I really believe this. I just think you need to let him walk in free agency. Listen, he's awesome. He's a great locker room guy. Like, him choreographing all those, you know, turnover celebrations. Like, it was truly one of the most enjoyable parts of the season. But I just don't think it's, you know, a good move. I think it would be a bad move if you brought him back on a $12-13 million per year salary. I just think it doesn't really make too much sense. He's a very good player, but for this contract, I just don't think it would be the best idea. I mean, 3 years, $42.75 million. Hey, listen, great locker room guy, brings the vibes, brings the great energy there, but also he's not the best safety in terms of his run defense. He does struggle immensely there. He is a great ball hawk. He can force turnovers, but again, you got a guy like Theo Jackson that can hop in there and give you damn near the same production. But, you know, the raw stats for Cam Bynum this season, he was solid. You know, no denying that. He did struggle in both Lions games this year, I will say, especially tackling Jahmyr Gibbs in the open field. But, you know, in coverage this year, he was also pretty solid. Like, he is a very, very good safety. And I could see even another team getting up closer to $14-15 million for Cam Bynum. But I just also think, and maybe it's just a Vikings fan's perspective on the whole thing, I almost wonder if he's a little bit overvalued to us just because of the touchdown or the turnover celebrations, like, and how good he is in the locker room. But actually on the field, his impact, is it worth $11-12 million? I'm going to say no. Spend that money elsewhere. But hey, you guys might disagree with me. I know this is a polarizing topic right now. Cam Bynum, fan favorite, but you guys let us know. Would you bring back Camryn Bynum in free agency? Give me a Y for yes, or give me an N for no down below in the comment section. You guys let me know your thoughts. Sound off down below in the comment section. Now, if you guys also want to hit me up on Twitter, the handle is @PatSieps. Give me a follow over there, and I'll give you guys a follow right back. But I appreciate you guys watching today's show. Exciting time to be a Minnesota Vikings fan. So, listen, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, Skol Vikes. Sweet. Jeremy, what's going on, man? Saying, yeah, Cam overrated. I just, I don't know, tough, very, very, very tough decision for Kwesi this offseason. Because I do know, I mean, fans would be upset if you just let him walk out the door, but I just think it would be right for, especially with the Vikings Super Bowl window. Ideally, it is when JJ is on his rookie contract here. 3 years for 40-something million. I just disagree with it. But hey, I'm sure a lot of people will be saying yes to this, just like my man Lee Hafner in the chat. Junk saying Kwesi should cook. Kwesi should have a big free agency, man. I'm just curious what side of the football he's going to target first. Junk saying, so then we would be out of safety if Harry leaves. I disagree. I think Theo Jackson could step in and be just fine. And plus with Brian Flores, like, you got to have some faith in the defensive coordinator here that he can get relatively the same production out of a guy like Theo compared to a guy like Cam Bynum. Now, the locker room side of thing, no doubt, I can't really argue that too much. But still, I just don't necessarily think it would be the right call. Zach Gaiman saying yes, but hopefully he accepts the team-friendly deal. Yeah, listen, if we get a report like Cam Bynum signing a 3-year, $30 million, $28 million extension, I would be happy about that. Just keep it 10 and under. 10 and under is probably my cutoff point for Cam Bynum. And Junk saying Brian Flores doesn't typically like expensive players. That is especially in the secondary. That is a very good point. But yeah. But we will be getting into a mailbag here in about 20 minutes or so. So if you guys got a question for me, #Vikings, just use it in the live chat. Or if you guys want to support the show as well, send in a super chat. Lilyish saying, what about Javon Holland or Asante Samuel? I would be interested in Asante Samuel. No doubt. Javon Holland, probably not. Because, again, that's a safety. You're going to have to pay $15+ million per year. Does have the connection with Brian Flores, but I would just rather go a different direction. I think my mentality shifted on how I wanted the Vikings to attack free agency, especially with them just getting their ass kicked in the trenches the last 2 games of the season. The football, get players who are closer to the football. Like, it's just as simple as that. Interior defensive line, interior offensive line. They need to be a more physical football team, because when you can't dominate the trenches, take a baseball analogy here, for example. You could have the greatest team in the world. If you don't have the bullpen, once the postseason comes around, it will not matter. I still think the same thing can apply for football, where, yeah, Vikings won 14-3 this upcoming this past season, get to the playoffs, get your ass kicked in the trenches, it will just keep on being the same thing. Skull TV saying Holland can play everywhere, which I feel like could be worth the money. Yeah, and he's also a great special teams guy as well. I don't know, maybe it's just Nick Roloff. He's our Dolphins host here. Not the biggest fan of Javon Holland. He watched him a whole lot more than I did this past year, so probably going to take his word for it on Javon Holland. Christmas Channel saying interior offensive line and CB in free agency and DT in the draft. Hey, you got to address all 3 of those. Doesn't matter how you do it, but yeah, I'm with you. But we're going to dive into the next segment here. It's going to be some hot takes around the Vikings offseason. I got 5 of them for you guys. We'll dive into it on today's show. Ty Man the Buckeye, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. How was the Ohio State parade for you, Ty Man? I heard you were over there. Alrighty. Yeah, we're going to dive into some hot takes here around the Vikings offseason. I just got 5 of them that I want to dive into with you guys. It'll be a fun show. So let's get after it. Let's do it. We got a fun show for you guys today. As coming up, I'm going to give you guys my 5 hot takes for the Minnesota Vikings heading into the offseason. And these are bold. These are not saying what I think's going to happen, what I want to happen, but I just wanted to go over 5 hot takes that I had for all of you guys heading into this offseason. They got a lot of money to spend in free agency, a lot of holes to fill on this roster, and Kwesi could go a number of different directions in terms of what positions he's going to target in free agency and then what position he's going to target in the NFL draft. But before we do so, some chat sports news for you guys here. So we had a Commanders video the other day get over 2.8 thousand subscribers on just one video. I'm not saying we can beat it on today's show, but I would at least like us to try. So if you guys have not already, hit that subscribe button. I would love to have a great meeting with my bosses if we could somehow shatter this record of 2.8 thousand subscribers. But if you guys haven't, hit that subscribe button. Don't miss a thing around the Minnesota Vikings this entire offseason. So subscribe today. All right, first hot take here. I'm going to go Kwesi attacks the defensive line in free agency and not the offensive line because, I've been saying it. All Vikings fans have been saying it. Go get me a guy like Trey Smith. Go get me a guy like Drew Dahlman. I actually think Kwesi might attack the other side of the field here before he attacks the offensive line. So let's take a look here at some of the top defensive tackle free agents here. First off, Dallas Cowboys, interior defensive lineman Osa Odighizuwa. Think I got that right. Close enough. Yep, got the nod there from executive producer Jack Loneray. But here, Osa, great player. We'll talk about him here in a second. But Milton Williams, defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the National Football League. Does struggle against the run a little bit, but he can create that interior pressure at a very, very high level. And a guy like B.J. Hill, had a really good year for the Bengals. Jarran Reed with the Seahawks. Then you do have a veteran option in Calais Campbell. But I do want to focus in here on Osa. So his PFF contract projection is a doozy. It is a 4-year, $85 million deal, but only 42.5 of it are guaranteed. So I could already see it. Like, if this is the contract that the Vikings sign him to, people will be freaking out because his raw numbers are not necessarily the best. And PFF, over the last 3 seasons, this is how he grades out. So this past season in 2024, he was the 30th best defensive lineman in the entire league. The year before that, 2023, he was the 19th. And then his rookie campaign, he was 41st, or not his rookie, sophomore campaign, he was 41st in the league. And, why would I want to attack, or why do I think the Vikings could attack interior defensive line over interior offensive line is this. Because I think at the offensive line spot, you have guys who you can just plug and play. So I would rather have the Vikings attack defensive line here in free agency over an offensive lineman. And, there's no doubt, like, Osa, like, his raw numbers don't blow you away. Like, it's not like he's putting up double-digit sack numbers, or he's, filling up the stat sheet in terms of tackles. He only had 4.5 sacks this past season for 23 quarterback hits and just 1 forced fumble. And that was in 17 games played. So the raw numbers don't blow you away by any means. But he has one of the highest pressure rates in the National Football League. He's got one of the best just pass rush grades in the National Football League as well. And, he is a guy who can really get after the quarterback from that interior defensive line. And the pass rush win rate percentage is his best stat to his name, 14.6%. 14.6%. That's one of the highest in the NFL this past season. He can get after it. And plus, if you're looking at like a team like the Eagles, a team like the Chiefs, they are so good at the interior of their defensive line because what throws off a quarterback the most, it's not pressure coming off the tackles. It's pressure straight in his face, coming from the guard, coming from the center position. So it gets me this. I would rather have the Vikings pay big for a defensive lineman in free agency, and just go plug and play at offensive guard. And I think that's where Kwesi might take this offseason because everybody's clamoring over Trey Smith, Drew Dahlman. We need to go get one of those guys. But I could see Kwesi going a whole different direction and, using all that free agency money and going and get one of the top defensive linemen, whether that's Osa or a Milton Williams. And then you got 2 guys who you can just plug and play here. These are veterans at the interior offensive line. First off, you got Kevin Zeitler on a 1-year, $6.25 million deal. I understand. I think he's turning 36 next season. He's an older guy, but it's just for 1 year. And let's just say you sign both of these players. Only takes up, probably on the cap, probably create a void year here, or probably combined from each of these guys. They're on the books for like $8 million. Then you keep Bradbury. I understand it's not a permanent fix at the offensive line. But you could also then re-sign Dalton Risner, have him rotate in with these two guys. So I just really have a strong feeling here that, and I know Vikings fans would get upset, that it may not be a guy like Trey Smith or a Will Fries. I could see them going plug and play at offensive line and targeting defensive line big time. But number 2 for me, I'm going to go Darnold. He gets $40+ million in free agency. And it's not going to be with the Minnesota Vikings, obviously. I just think Darnold, honestly, outpriced himself here in Minnesota. Like, if he had an okay year and the Vikings went 10-7, it was just completely different. Maybe he, threw for 28 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and he was more projected to get around, $20 million in free agency. Maybe he comes back to the Vikes, but I think the 3 teams that could pay big for Sam Darnold, 1, the Las Vegas Raiders. They need a quarterback, and they're right now at pick number 6 in the NFL draft. So would they rather, send a lot of future draft capital and trade up for a guy, or would they rather just sign Sam Darnold? Also, Pete Carroll, you got that USC connection now between those two, but also the New York Giants. Maybe they don't love either of the quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and, Brian Dable, Joe Shane. They got to win next season, or else their jobs might be, or they both might be fired this upcoming season. So I could see them throwing money at Darnold, and then also the Pittsburgh Steelers. Watch out for that. But here's what PFF has his contract projection at. It's a 3-year deal, and it's $41.25 million per year. So over $100 million total in this contract, according to PFF. And again, that is just way too out of the Vikings price point. But, last night, actually, Marshall Green and I, our Giants Now host, we went back and watched almost every single throw from Sam Darnold this past season. And after watching it all, I think there's no doubt in my mind that Sam Darnold is a top 15 quarterback in the National Football League. Now, you may be saying, well, if he's a top 15 quarterback, why would you want to get rid of him? Why wouldn't you want to sign him to a $40+ million contract? It just doesn't fit the Vikings timeline. Because with all the money they have to spend this year in free agency, you got to plug in some holes, and you have a guy like J.J. McCarthy, which every report that's came out of Minnesota, they're extremely high on this kid. So I think a team will get desperate. It's a quarterback league, and toss Darnold $40+ million. But number 3, a fun one for you guys. I know we're all talking, or we all love talking running backs here on the show, but I got the Vikings. I think there's a chance they draft 2 running backs this season. Now, in this situation, it would be you do let Aaron Jones walk in free agency. You don't give him that, $14 million $14 million total 2-year deal, and you go potentially target one of these 10 running backs. So if it is the Vikings drafting 2 running backs, I don't think it would be Ashton Jeanty, and honestly, I don't think Genty's going to fall to him. At pick number 24, I think Hampton will be a top 2-round pick. LaQuint Allen, Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson is a burner from Tennessee. He might run a 4.35 40. But you got Quinshon Judkins. But I mainly want to look at the second page here because I could see the Vikings taking 2 of these guys. We all love number 8 on this list, Cam Skattebo. I would love the Vikings to draft him. But if my ideal combination here, you take Cam Skattebo and maybe the 3rd round, then you got 2 5th-round picks. If you could then get the scat back in Devin Neal, pair that up with Cam Skattebo, I would love that. I think that would be a perfect situation for the Vikings. But I will say this. If Kwesi doesn't draft at least 1 running back this year, I think it would be a massive mistake because clearly running backs, their value, it's going up in the NFL after this last free agency period. Seeing these guys honestly get underpaid like a Saquon, like a Derrick Henry, I promise you teams will start addressing that running back position differently. And with a loaded running back class, Kwesi has to draft one. Like, there is really no excuse for the Vikings to draft a running back. So where could they pick them? I don't think it would be pick number 24. I think they'll be defensive lineman or cornerback. But I think right here, I think you take a running back in round 3, and then with one of your 5th-round picks, you take another one. And also, I could see Kwesi probably, trading back up to like the 6th, 7th round, just to get, some guys to help fill out the rest of this roster and practice squad here. But I could see round 3, round 5, Vikings take a running back in each of those rounds. But if you guys want the Vikings to draft a running back, just give me a skull down below in the comment section. Send a message to the Vikings front office that we want a dynamic, we want an explosive back here in Minnesota. So if you guys want the Vikes to draft a running back, just give me a skull down below. Now we'll get to more hot takes here in a second, but first, I got to tell you guys about today's sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. If you guys download the Prize Picks app today and plug in that promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today, plug in promo code CLNS, Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. What is Prize Picks? It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players, and you guys have a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Now, they actually got a sweet deal for you guys for the big game 2 Sundays from now, where just 1 Patrick Mahomes passing yard will get you 1 win on Prize Picks. So take advantage of this deal. Trust me, you guys will want to take advantage of this. Patrick Mahomes will get 1 passing yard in the big game 2 Sundays from now. So download the app today, plug in promo code CLNS, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today, plug in promo code CLNS, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks, run your game. I'm excited to talk about this one. Number 4, I decided to go, we are going to get a Jordan Addison trade rumor. And I'm not saying it's like the Vikings, we're going to get a report the Vikings are looking to trade Jordan Addison. No, I think there will be somebody else where it's like teams are calling about Jordan Addison this offseason. Because I think just, schematically, we are going to see a big change in this Vikings offense. Because, I think this past season, we saw the Vikings go air raid attack with Sam Darnold, where they were throwing the ball all over the lot. And I'm not saying JJ can't do that, but where is JJ at his best? When he has a run game, when he can set up the play action, and then you let him cook on 3rd down. So I think schematically, we will see a massive change to the offense to help support JJ McCarthy. Well, how can you also do that? Maybe you trade a guy like Addison. Where you going? Get a couple more draft picks. You attack that interior offensive line just a little bit. And plus, with how good the Vikings are at developing wide receivers, they could find another wide receiver too. So I'm not saying that the Vikings will obviously do this. I don't even think they would consider it this offseason. I don't think I would even consider it this offseason, but that's my hot take, that we will get a report on an Addison trade rumor. But, his contract, obviously still on his rookie deal here. Vikings could extend him this offseason. I don't think it will, come, but $3.7 million for 2025, $4.37 in 26. I mean, that's a steal of a deal for one of the better wide receivers in the National Football League. So, listen, the only way Addison, but, if you're just looking at the future, are we cool with the Vikings obviously paying Jefferson $35 million a year? Then Addison's probably going to demand at least $25 million a year. You want to put almost $60 million into the wide receiver position? I don't know. So that's a little hot take for you guys at Addison. We'll get a trade rumor on number 3 this offseason. But last one for me, I'm going to go Theo Jackson starts next season. And, a lot of reports around Harrison Smith retiring. Could Cam Bynum leave in free agency? And, I fully expect it to happen. I think number 22 is going to hang him up. Just hearing the way he was talking after the Rams game, the playoff loss, he was acting like he just played his last football game. And I don't know if that was mainly him just being devastated after the loss, but just kind of reading the tea leaves here, I think Harrison Smith will hang him up, and then that will leave. You got a decision on Cam Bynum here. Will he stay or will he go walk in free agency? But I think it's more likely that, knowing how analytical Kwesi is, I just think Cam Bynum's going to get priced out. I think he's going to go get $14 million per year. And I just don't think Kwesi's going to swing a deal for that much money for a safety. So where does that leave us? I think that would leave us with Theo Jackson starting. Clearly, the coaching staff has a lot of faith in him. I got a lot of faith in him. Brian Flores loves the guy, and plus he's on a really cheap deal. And if you believe in Flores, if you believe everything he's about, you should believe he will get the most out of Theo Jackson. And maybe he doesn't replicate the production that Cam Bynum and Harrison Smith had, but he will at least get right up to it. And plus, in the one game he started this season against the Seattle Seahawks, he was pretty damn good. 85 overall PFF grade, had the game-sealing interception when he undercut that route thrown to the right sideline by Geno Smith. Coverage grade was 77.1. I think he's a stud. I think we're kind of just sleeping on him a little bit as Vikings fans. So I know it's a tough decision to let Bynum walk and Harrison Smith retiring, but I just think Theo Jackson, I just think he's in line to be the starting safety for the Minnesota Vikings this upcoming season. But let me ask you guys this. I just give you guys 5 hot takes. You guys just got to give me one down below in the comment section. Give me your hot take on the Vikings offseason. Maybe you got a ballsy one where it's like, hey, I actually do think the Vikings are going to re-sign Sam Darnold for $40+ million a year. Whatever it may be, give me your hot take down below in the comment section. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the Vikings offseason. Also, if you guys want to give me a follow on Twitter, that's a handle right there. Give me a follow over there, and we'll see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes. Sweet. Jason, what's going on? Hi and Skol from Windham, Minnesota. Arnold saying, trade our first to the Bears, get their 2 seconds, 39th, and 41st pick. I don't think you're getting that much for the Bears to trade back up into the first round, but I like the thought process there. Definitely on the table that the Vikings do trade back. Skull Nation saying the Vikings will trade TJ and Bradbury in a package deal. That is a hot take. No doubt about it. Love that one, Skull Nation. Yeah, a lot of decisions to be made on this Vikings roster. We'll just see how they play it. But we will be getting into a mailbag here in a second. Skull Nation, I appreciate you for getting that question in there. Eric Mott, what's going on, man? Sorry I'm late. Do not worry about it whatsoever. Do not worry about it whatsoever. Eric, if you want to get a question in there, hashtag Vikings or super chat to get up on today's show. Skull TV, love this hot take. Hot take, Vikings make 8+ picks in this year's draft. So we only got 4 right now. So you're saying, you trade back from round 1, get maybe a second and a third, then do you trade that other third, get like a 4th and a 5th, then you trade one of those 5ths, you get like a 6th and a 7th. I could see Kwesi doing that 100%. Dayan Davis saying, Skull, shout out to you. Corey saying, we're trading Dallas Turner for Deshaun Watson. I did not hear that, Corey. Thanks for letting me know. Appreciate you. Oh, great. Yeah. Skull for life saying, Skull to all. Appreciate you for tuning in, my man. But we are going to be getting into a mailbag here, so hashtag Vikings or super chat to get up on today's show. Isaiah Garcia, what's going on, Zay? Appreciate you for tuning in. Missed the watch parties, man. I wish it would have went differently in the playoffs. But Zach Gaiman saying, do you think Ryan Wright will be re-signed? I'm going to have to say yeah. I feel like Wright was pretty good this past year. Wasn't the best in 2023, but definitely upped his game in 2024. But, yeah, make sure you guys get those questions in there. Hashtag Vikings or super chat to get up on today's show. And then we will dive into our mailbag here. We are 3 likes away from 100. If you guys haven't already, hit that thumbs up icon. Help us out. 97 likes, just need 3 more. So if you guys could, hit that thumbs up icon. Skull TV saying Dylan Sampson is better fit than Caleb Johnson. Vikings need speed and power in the backfield. See, I feel like Caleb Johnson's got that. I don't think Caleb will run a fast 40. Probably be around 4.5-ish, but he's got, like, football speed. Like, when you see him out there on the football field and you watch him play, like, he is an electric running back. And I would love Caleb Johnson. He's honestly moving up my dream draft targets for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm so bored. Appreciate you getting that question or getting that thought in the live chat. I'm so bored. Yeah. I'm so bored. Great name. But let's dive into it. We'll answer you guys' questions for about the next 10 to 12 minutes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Coming up on today's show, it's my favorite show we do here. We have a mailbag where we answer all of your guys' questions, and this is a part of our weekly live show. We normally go live at around 4 p.m. Central Time every Wednesday. So if you guys haven't checked them out yet, please hop in the live chat. It's a lot of fun. Hang out with us, and that's where we get all of our questions from. And the first one coming in from my man Z Cool here. What's going on, Z? Saying, what position is loading the draft this year? Within that loaded class, can the Vikings drop a player in expectation of picking up one and upgrading? If so, who? Shout out to Jack Loneray. Throughout the running back position, there is no doubt it's absolutely loaded in this year's class. I mean, you got about 10 guys. I would be thrilled for the Vikings, to draft, then you would probably have to drop Aaron Jones, but it will come down to, like, would you rather give Aaron Jones that $7-8 million, or would you just rather, take a chance on one of these guys? Like Ashton Jeanty, if he falls to pick 24, Vikings take him, I would love it. Amari Hampton, LaQuain Allen, Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson is the burner in this year's draft. And then Judkins, I saw Judkins getting some comparisons to Dalvin Cook actually this week, and I don't hate it at all. But I think in like the 3rd and the 5th round is where the Vikings will really target running back. Like, you got Caleb Johnson, R.J. Harvey, Cam Scadaboo, who is everybody's favorite right now, and I would love him for goal line situations. Dude's an absolute mauler. Travion Henderson, he's a stud. I love Devin Neal as well. He's a really good player. But another position here, honestly, like defensive tackle, I think this year's defensive tackle class is extremely underrated, and then maybe you could move off a guy like Jonathan Bullard, Jerry Tillery, Jihad Ward. You don't bring those guys back, and you just draft some guys. But Z-Cool, appreciate the question, man. Either running back or defensive line in terms of where this draft class is, pretty loaded. So I appreciate you. Hunter Thompson coming in saying, should the Vikings draft Nick Imanwori? I believe that's a South Carolina safety if Harrison Smith retires. It is a South Carolina safety. So listen, he's only 20 years old right now. So he is one of the youngest players in this year's draft, but he is a freak. 6'3", 227 pounds, very versatile safety, which most of these safeties also this season are very versatile. I feel like the college football game, they're just letting these guys play multiple positions on defense. You're not like locked in to a certain role here. So I would love that pick, but again, I don't know if I would love the Vikings taking safety in round 1. I would rather have them, like I've been saying all offseason, have Theo Jackson start. I'd rather have them go corner or defensive tackle. Mike Nintendo, should they bring Darnold back? Question of the offseason for the Vikes. Pretty simple one here. You just can't. If the timeline was different, if we didn't have J.J. McCarthy, if our roster was more complete and ready to win now, then maybe I would be more open to it. But listen, Darnold was great for the Vikes this past season. Just even going back this past week and just watching all of his throws from the year, like this dude is playing at a top 15 quarterback level. I mean, heading into the Lions game, we were arguing, is he the 5th best quarterback in the league? He was playing that good. He had 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Entering that game was 14-2, but it just doesn't fit the timeline. It's J.J. McCarthy's team now, and honestly, I think that answer is pretty clear here. But Zach Gaiman, what's going on? Next question saying, should we re-sign Cam Akers since he played well if we let Aaron Jones go? Like that idea. If Aaron Jones gets priced out and some other teams want to offer him like $9-10 million per year, then I say you just bring back Cam Akers. But let's just say Cam Akers does leave in free agency. Could you imagine if the Vikings traded for him for a 3rd year in a row where he's on the team, you let him walk, you trade for him. He's on the team, you let him walk, you trade for him. Then we just do that again this season. I think that'll be absolutely hilarious. But, I'd be cool with it. Aaron Jones walks, sign Cam Akers, draft a running back. You got a solid running back room then. INT Productions coming in saying, #Vikings. Thoughts on trading Hawk for picks? Interesting conversation here. I actually remember a conversation with my dad I had before they were talking about extending TJ Hawkinson, and he made the argument. He was like, these tight ends nowadays, they're hitting at an all-time rate. Like Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers this past season, like Dalton Kincaid, even Tucker Kraft, for example, with the Packers. Like these young tight ends, because originally the conversation was tight ends take longer to develop because you got to get the run blocking part of the NFL game down. Then obviously you got to go be a weapon. But trading Hawk for picks, I wouldn't hate the idea. Now, could a team toss you a 2nd-round pick for Hawk? I would 100% consider that, considering this year's tight end draft is also pretty loaded as well. But with only 4 picks, I think trading Hawkinson has to be on the table. And also, listen, does Hawk play up to that $18-20 million contract? Because still, the last couple of games of the year, Lions and the Rams, he had a lot of chances to make some big-time plays in some big-time moments. And there were 50-50 balls, and they just went the other direction. He wasn't able to come down with them. Is he worth that $20 million price tag? I don't necessarily think so. I would definitely consider it. I just don't know how likely it is. And he was also coming off that injury. I think physically he was right, but maybe mentally he wasn't fully ready to go. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Kwesi's definitely considering that. But let me ask you guys this. This is always a fun one here on the show. Name a random Vikings player for me. Not the Adrian Petersons, not the Randy Mosses, not the Chris Carters, but get weird. Name a super random Vikings player. Normally I say Sidney Rice for this one. I'm going to change that up here. I will go, I was about to say Toby Gerhart. I feel like that's not too random. I'll go, let me think about this. Z Cool saying Brock Lesnar. That's a good one. I'm gonna go Matt Asiata, one of my favorite running backs for the Vikes. The goal line demon. How nice would Matt Asiata be on? Would have been on the team last season, man. Considering how much they struggled. So yeah, name a random Vikings player for me down below. Now we'll get to more questions here in a second, but first I got to tell you guys about today's sponsor, and that is Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Now Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Whether it's a Minnesota Wild game, Minnesota Timberwolves game, or any hockey game in the Minneapolis area, check out Game Time, download the app, get that $20 off. When you plug in that promo code ChatSports, again, first purchase only, terms do apply, but if you guys use that promo code CHATSPORTS, we will hook you guys up with $20 off. $20 off. So download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I use them for any NBA, NHL game I'm going to. You guys won't regret it. Check them out. But massive shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's show. Bobby Boggs, what's going on, man? How worried are you about Will Reichard? I'm gonna say not too worried. I think that quad injury midway through the year really shook his confidence. Because after that he was missing a lot of kicks. We saw him hit big kicks when he was at Bama, like in that Rose Bowl game, actually against J.J. McCarthy. He hit like a 50-plus yarder to tie the game up. I'm not really too worried about it, but if he starts off next season, for example, struggles throughout the first 8 games, I mean, I guarantee you people will be calling for John Parker Romo to come back since he was awesome in the 4 games he filled in. So right now, I'm going to say not really too worried. Craig, what's going on? Trade back from the 1 spot. Draft is deep in positions we need. I think we can optimize this draft by getting a 2nd-round pick and another 3rd. That's like the early reports of this draft. Is that like between pick 25 and 65, all these guys are relatively graded the same. So with where the Vikings are at, only having 4 picks in this upcoming draft, it would make a lot of sense. Trade down from that 24 slot, get a 2nd and a 3rd. But I will say, if there is a player who you absolutely love at pick number 24, don't trade back just to get extra draft capital. Like, don't force the issue on that. Like, if there's a Benjamin Morrison who you know is a stud, or if there's a Kenneth Gant or whoever it may be, like, slide in there at pick number 24 and then just draft whoever it may be. But, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a huge conversation here, Craig, so I appreciate you. Junk coming in. If Harrison Smith retires, who do you want to fill his spot? Keep Cam Bynum. Yeah, I've been saying it a lot. I'm cool with the Vikings letting Cam Bynum walk. You know, Theo Jackson's there. You could also maybe draft a safety in the 3rd or the 5th round in this year's upcoming draft. But I wouldn't want the Vikes to take a safety in the 1st round, even if both these guys aren't on the team next season. But, Junk, I appreciate you. Yeah, I just think it would probably be an in-house option, like a Theo Jackson, or you go draft a guy in the 3rd. But hopefully you have a lot of faith in Flores where he can, he gets the most out of that safety position. But Jack Loneray, what's going on, man? Does J.J. McCarthy live up to the hype this season? 110%. I think he's gonna exceed expectations this year. I was actually talking about this the other day. I think the Vikings are early record prediction here. I think the Vikings go 11-6, 10-7 next season. And I think some people will be saying, oh, they won 14 games with Sam Darnold. Why did they go to J.J. McCarthy? But I think the Vikings will be a better team at 10-7 or 11-6 than they were last year, even though they won 14+ games. Yeah, 100%. I think I do think JJ lives up to the hype. I appreciate you, Jack Loneray, executive producer here of Vikings Now. Skull TV, what's going on? Do the Vikings go all in on Milton Williams? I would do it. I think this guy's a stud. Only 25 years old still. He is a massive defensive lineman, 6'3", 290 pounds, and PFF, his overall grade was 70.1, but his pass rush grade was 90.4, which was the second out of all defensive tackles. Run defense was only 43.1, but this guy can create interior pressure. I think Flores would absolutely love this guy on the defensive line. I mean, total pressures on the season, he had 40, which was 19th in the NFL among defensive linemen, which is just great stuff. Young guy, I think he's about to hit his prime, and there's just something about like Eagles linemen on both sides of the football. Always physical, always play with the tenacity, and I think the Vikings could use a whole lot more of that, on their roster. So go all in on him. Let me actually just look. I'm not sure exactly what his contract projection is here. Guessing he's going to get upwards of 17, 18. Yeah, they got him at $18 million per year, the Louisiana Tech product, Milton Williams. So, yeah, I would do it. No doubt about it. But if you guys could also, friendly reminder here to hit me up on Twitter and also hit that thumbs up icon on the way out. Really does help us grow this YouTube channel here at Chat Sports. If you guys could hit that thumbs up button, but really want to say thank you guys so much for watching today's show. See you guys next time. As always, Skull Vikes. Awesome. Yeah, to get in there? Nah, I love it. Well, we appreciate you guys hanging out today. Over 2,000 people tune in, so that's great stuff. Dan Davis saying, I think McCarthy will have more of a surprising season than most expect him to have. Yeah, I honestly think JJ, he's not going to put up like the numbers Darnold did. That's just not his game. Unless it is. Unless Kevin O'Connell throws his curveball and he's running the same offense he did with Darnold. But yeah. But I do want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off here. So shout out to all of you guys. So got 120 people in the building. Yeah, Nick Lopez. We got to shout out the producer. I forgot about that. We had a first-timer producing today's live show. 3 segs. Killed it. If everybody could, give me a Skull Lopez down below in the live chat. Show him some love. I'm so bored saying, hey, are your videos just clips from lives? If you don't mind me asking. Yeah, normally when we go live, we'll get like 3 videos, post them out over the weekend. Just helps us get covered off here. So, yeah, but shout out to Lopez, though. Produced his first live show. If you guys could, show him some love in the live chat. As Gino saying, Theodore, the Chiefs are getting him. Oh, talking about somebody else in the live chat. Terry Cole showing Lopez some love. Isaiah saying Skull Pat and Lopez. I'm so bored. Dan Davis saying Skull Lopez. Yeah, new producer here at Chat Sports. Killed it on his first live show. But, yeah, shout out to you guys for tuning in. All righty, we're going to get on out of here. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. A lot more to talk about this week, so make sure you guys are subscribed, turn on those notifications, and we will see you guys next time. As always, Skull Vikes.